So today on Free Field Training, we're going to talk about loss prevention a little bit. I just did a live stream talking about my ticket book over on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, Tommy_Free Field Training, so you can be part of these conversations live. We're actually filming this live as well. And we're going to take comments and questions from the Instagram live stream audience as soon as I'm done with my presentation here. But one of the commenters asked about the things that law enforcement want from loss prevention when they arrive on the scene to take custody of a shoplifter. And I said, man, that would make a great video all on its own. I don't want to answer it now, so we shut that live stream off. We turned on this live stream, and we're going to talk about loss prevention. But that little topic of what law enforcement wants from loss prevention when we get there to take custody of a shoplifter, that is like the last thing on my mind for stuff that's important. The important stuff is all this stuff at the top. So what does law enforcement want from loss prevention? Simple. We want safe apprehensions. The last thing that I want, and unfortunately this happens more often than I would like, is to find out that someone from loss prevention, a person that I work with on a regular basis, because they're security at whatever store and they're doing a job that is important for that store and somebody that I have to interact with all the time. I don't want to show up to them hurt, either physically or legally. So let's talk about some considerations for loss prevention, especially somebody that's new into loss prevention. What law enforcement wants from you and what your boss wants from you also is safe apprehensions. So here's some big no-nos. No jumping in the offender's car. If you go to stop someone and they run outside and they get in a car and the window's down or the door is open, do not jump into the car. That is a great way to get hurt or be the victim of a kidnapping, so please don't do that. No getting stabbed. We don't want you getting stabbed, so if there's a likelihood when you're watching them on CCTV or from the floor that you are going to get stabbed trying to apprehend them, please don't. More about that in mitigation. Detaining people for things that are not illegal. This has come up a couple times in my career, is that people either didn't know the local laws and requirements for Illinois, and specifically for this county in Illinois, with retail thefts, and so they were detaining people for things that we couldn't prosecute, and that doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help me, because I just got off the street to come talk to you to get all this information to find out that I can't prosecute that person. And it doesn't help you legally, because in certain circumstances, you and the store can get sued for improperly detaining someone, especially if your actual job is loss prevention. The courts give kind of shopkeep owners a little broader berth in most areas. Like they give them a little more leeway in who they're stopping and for what reason than they will for your major big box stores, where you're supposed to have training and know what it is you're supposed to do and not do. Where we have a big problem with this type of thing is people that work loss prevention out of state, and then they come to work loss prevention. Sometimes some of the managers, they get transferred from one state to another, and they don't understand how it works in Illinois and how the rules and regulations and how things are prosecuted in Cook County and the requirements for it, and they come and try to implement policies that just don't mesh with law. And very often you hear them be like, well, this is our company policy. Well, state law doesn't care what your company policy is. You can't lock somebody up for things that aren't illegal. In that same vein, be careful if you're trained to just do loss prevention and the store is pushing you into a more generalized security role, and how you flex into that role. In some states, security is allowed to detain people or arrest people even, or issue citations right on the spot for trespassing. In other states, they're not allowed to. So know what the rules are in the area that you're working in, and abide by those rules, and try not to get into crazy situations that are outside of those rules, which are going to cause legal and civil problems for you and your employer later. Mitigation on these things on the top. If something looks sketchy, call 911. I know there's cops out there that are going to get pissed that you called 911 before anything even happened because it looks sketchy. I am not one of them. I would rather come out 100 times for, hey, this looks sketchy, and it ends up being nothing, than one time with, you getting stabbed or getting dragged off by a car. Some things to look for if you're new to this and you don't know what this is supposed to look like when you're seeing a shoplifter. Big crowds, big groups. Flash mob shoplifting is a big thing where people just run into a store, or a bunch of kids come into a store all at once and they snatch up a bunch of stuff and run out. If you see a behavior that looks like that, or you're going to have to stop a group of people that are more than the group of people you have to help you stop them, or they can be around when you're stopping them, give us a call. Call 911 early. When they're in the store and they're shoving things down their pants and there's 6 of them and there's 2 of you, might be a good idea to call 911 early, so that way we can get there, be outside, and be able to help mitigate the getting stabbed, dragged off by a car, getting shot, getting beat up by a mob of people. We'd like to avoid that if all possible. If for no other reason than it makes the paperwork a disaster. Coordinate with facility security. If you are in a situation where you are loss prevention at a big box store or retail store that's at a mall, it can often help when you have, let's say there's 2 of you and there's 3 people you have to stop. In many states, you can contact the facility security, so mall security or whatever stores, uniform security, or whoever you're contracting out to, and say, hey, can you meet us over here? We're going to do a stop. Or hey, we're going to do a stop. We're going to be at this location in case we start yelling for help, or in case we call you, this is where we're going to be. And very often, they'll come by, and if something goes sideways, at least you've got a couple more people there to help and a couple more witnesses for what happened. Don't be afraid to call it. What that means is, I know everybody's under the ball to make those stops and to document shrinkage, because that's your job. That's what the job of loss prevention is. If something looks really off and kind of scary, don't be afraid to call it and say, hey, listen, we're just going to let this one go, right? You get people in the store, you got 6 people, one of them's carrying a baseball bat. They look like, they just came into town in the train station and don't have a job. You got like dirty, grungy people walking around with, baseball bats or doing something crazy in the store, and you don't have facility security, or you call facility security, they say they can't come by, you call 911, they're like, hey, we don't have an officer to send out. Instead of trying to make that stop alone or with 2 of you, with some guy that's walking around with a baseball bat, just let it go. And I know this is hard for a lot of people. It's hard for cops when I tell them, hey, listen, that abandoned house, don't bother going in it. It's not worth it. That's not really our job. We're not here to get hurt. The idea is to make the apprehension without getting hurt. Don't forget about that last part. Please don't be afraid to call it. Just say, hey, you know what? This one's going to go. That $800 and stuff that they shoved down their pants, we got to let that go, because there's only 2 of us. There's 6 of them. One of those guys has got a baseball bat. They're all enormous. If we go to stop them, this looks like it's going to go sideways. Let's just let that money go. Stores probably got $500,000 in shrinkage at least every year if you're working for a big box. That'll just add to that. Document if we have to. Sweep it under the rug if we have to. But nobody wants this stuff to stop. I don't want to see somebody get beat over the head with a baseball bat over any amount of money. I don't care if they're getting away with $1 million. I don't want somebody getting beat over the head with a baseball bat, getting killed, especially the loss prevention people that we work with. When we get there, what do we want? Ideally, we would like the suspect or offender, however you want to look at it, searched, so we know that they don't have any weapons on them, preferably handcuffed if your state allows it. All this is, of course, if your state allows it. This is what we would love. Searched, handcuffed, and their name and date of birth and phone number or their driver's license handed to us. And also, ideally, and I love Macy's does this, which is great. They teach other people to do this. Your ID and the receipt for all of the merchandise that was stolen copied onto the same sheet of paper. So you get the receipt on one side, your driver's license or state ID, and then a couple good phone numbers, all on one sheet of paper. So you hand me the sheet of paper, I'm like, oh, that's the loss prevention person. That's 2 good phone numbers for them. That's the receipt of all the stuff. I know how much it is. I've got the proof that they ran it through and found out exactly how much it was. And then I can use that form, leave enough room on that form so I can write the facts that you're telling me about what happened. Okay, they selected yada, yada, yada from the sales floor. They walked past the last point of sale. They went out the West Mall doors. We stopped them. We recovered XYZZZZY stuff on receipt. Total amount XYZ dollars. And now I've got everything I need all on one form. And that's it. And then we're done. I got 2 good phone numbers for you if I forgot to ask something. And ideally, I've got this person's driver's license that you have here. And then we turn them around, we switch out cuffs, you get your cuffs back, I take them with my cuffs, we go back to the station. I call you when we need the complaint signed or however your jurisdiction deals with that, and we're all good to go. Everybody does it safely. That's great. I love this. But what I want is this. I want you to not get hurt doing this job. You got your whole life to get good at this job if you do all of this. This you'll learn with time because it'll just make everybody's life easier. Let's work on that. All right, now we're going to go to the Instagram live stream comments and questions. Hopefully a couple people from Loss Prevention are in there that can have stuff that we can add to this, and then we're going to call it. Everyday Dingle says, Loss Prevention is great. Did it at Target before I got into the PSD game. It can make a lot of money if you get into the right positions with the right companies. I know people that have had pretty decent careers working loss prevention and just staying in it throughout their career and becoming, higher level management positions at the company and trainers for loss prevention. Props to John says, what if you're not allowed to physically search? Great question. I don't know. Ideally, I'd like the person searched. Ideally, for safety's sake, you would like the person searched. It's very, very embarrassing and a lot of liability on a company or a police department when you take someone into custody, you have them handcuffed, and they manage to get a pistol out and shoot themselves or somebody else. So, if you're legally allowed to search, you should. If not, you're a big boy. You decide what to do. But I would recommend it. I would recommend it because the amount of liability that you might incur from somebody saying you did the search improperly or that they feel that they were threatened by being searched or they feel that they were unlawfully searched, a lot of that can be mitigated with the use of video cameras, which could be used. You could use someone's phone to do that nowadays. You could have a lockdown account on a lot of social media accounts and live stream so that it's off-site recorded by a third party. You can actually do that through YouTube. I'm not sure if that's recommended by YouTube, if they authorize doing it that way, but I've seen people do that where they set the video to private and they live stream any searches or interactions that they do in the loss prevention office on YouTube, so it's third-party verified that that's what was streamed to the third party, so nobody can say you cut it up or edited it or anything like that later, and it's available for court cases, so you've got kind of like a witness, a third-party witness for your searches, so that can mitigate some of that, and then that gets rid of most of that liability, and you can still make sure they don't have a gun on them. I recommend, if they don't let you search the person, you see if you can pat them down using, the court-approved pat-down procedures that law enforcement uses. See what they say to that, especially if you're recording it. So you'd be like, all right, well, we know they don't have weapons. Let's worry about our safety first. Another option that you can bring up with your boss if you're not allowed to physically search people is one of the wand metal detectors. And you can set some of those really high so that it'll only go off. It's a large chunk of metal that they have, and at least then you're not going to have the person pulling a pistol out or a large knife out. So, things to think about. Most places they won't let you physically search a person. You can physically search the bags or purses that they have with them as a private entity. Again, make sure that's legal in your state. What you're doing is legal and within your agency's policy. But those are some things to think about, things to bring up to your boss. Jakes2 says, I've never actually seen an LP anywhere in person. Are they just security or is that completely different? Okay, so loss prevention, if you've never seen them, that's wrong. It's kind of like, remember when I did all those videos and you get all those smart people that are like, I see undercover cars all the time. You don't see undercover cars all the time. Undercover cars are meant not to be seen. Loss prevention, unless you know who they are, you're probably not going to see them. Sometimes I see loss prevention because I can kind of see what they're doing and understand what they're up to. And sometimes I see loss prevention because I go to stores where I know the loss prevention people because they used to work in my town and now they work somewhere else. And I try to just give them a wave, say, hey, how you doing? Pretty good. And just pretend like I know this person from anywhere else. We don't talk about loss prevention when they're on the floor doing their job. But they're generally plain clothes, dressed very normally. They look like a customer. They walk around or they'll watch from CCTV cameras and they're looking for people. They're just looking for people that are stealing. Hey, Adams20 Sue says, glad you're not a cuff stealer. I try not to be a cuff stealer. I have handcuffs. I have plenty of handcuffs. We've done videos about handcuffs. I don't need more pairs of handcuffs. Loss prevention puts handcuffs on somebody. I always try to switch them out. In fact, pretty sure I have a video about switching out handcuffs and how to do it safely without having to take the cuffs all the way off and put new cuffs all the way on. Q says, in St. Louis, we are allowed to detain and search so long as they are committing a felony. Well, that's the funny thing, is that I don't know how it is in St. Louis, but here, what defines a felony can sometimes be kind of ambiguous. Like right now, to get a felony retail theft is quite a production. There's a lot of boxes you have to tick in order to know to have it as a felony, and I don't think just on the offset you would actually be able to know in Cook County, Illinois right now that something was going to be charged as a felony. You could go by the strict statute definition, then maybe you would know based upon how much the stuff is that they're stealing, but it's kind of a local thing. Let's see what else we got. And that's it. That's the end of the stream. Thank you all for stopping by and coming on the live stream. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any other comments or questions, put them down in the comments down below, and I will do my best to answer them. If you think of other videos like this, educational stuff that we can do, things that you want to know about, put those down there too. I'm always open for new video ideas. Till next week, you guys be safe. Take care of each other. Hey, thanks for watching Free Field Training on YouTube. While you're here, check out one of our other videos, or head on over to the Patreon and see how you can get your name put on your videos like these fine folks over here. All the links are in the description, of course. We'll see you guys next time.